What if I told you that 90% of your marketing budget is completely wasted right out of the gate?
Oh, man.
Right. And not because your product is bad or anything, but because you're essentially standing in front of a massive stadium full of people, shouting your pitch, and almost everyone in the stands is just completely tuning you out.
Yeah, it's a terrifying thought for any business owner.
Yeah.
I mean, you are burning capital to basically scream into a void
Hmm.
simply because you don't really understand the psychology of the crowd you're talking to.
Exactly. So welcome to this deep dive. Today, our mission is uncovering the real mechanics behind building a high-performing, massively profitable business. We're stripping down the insights from Chet Holmes's landmark book, The Ultimate Sales Machine.
Such a great book.
It really is. And the core philosophy here is, well, it's a massive reality check. Mastery in business isn't about learning 4,000 different cutting-edge strategies.
Right, which is what everyone tries to do.
Exactly. It's actually about practicing just 12 critical areas 4,000 times
Mhm.
with what the author lovingly calls pig-headed discipline and determination.
I love that phrase, pig-headed discipline.
Me too. Okay, let's unpack this. The idea of dedicating just one strictly guarded hour a week to systematically soup up virtually every single part of a business. I mean, it sounds almost aggressively simple.
It does sound simple, yeah, but implementing it is incredibly rare because most business owners, they operate in a perpetual state of reaction.
Always putting out fires.
Right. They are chasing the shiny object of the week, like a new social media algorithm today or a sudden pivot in company culture tomorrow. They prefer the illusion of motion over the actual discipline of mastery.
Yeah, motion doesn't equal progress.
Exactly. So this deep dive is really about moving away from that exhausting daily chaos and reaching a state of subconscious competence where the business finally runs like a finely tuned machine.
But there is a pretty glaring roadblock here, right? Because you cannot build a machine if you don't even have the time to draft the blueprints.
That is the ultimate trap.
Yeah. You've just freed up an hour in theory, but in practice, your day is totally hijacked. That really forces us to confront this cultural norm of got-a-minute management.
Oh, got-a-minute management is a silent killer of productivity. It's basically the open door policy taken to a toxic extreme.
Just anyone popping in.
Yeah. Anyone can walk up to your desk and say, hey, got a minute? And suddenly your deep strategic thinking is entirely derailed by some minor operational hiccup.
Which happens constantly.
Constantly, it forces leaders into a purely reactive posture. I mean, you are no longer steering the ship. You are just furiously patching tiny leaks as your staff points them out.
Look at how the billionaire investor Charlie Munger operated to avoid this. I think this is fascinating. To get a meeting with Munger, you couldn't just pop your head into his office.
Right, no way.
You had to call his secretary, schedule a specific appointment, and submit a strict written agenda in advance.
Which forces the entire organization to be disciplined.
Exactly. You end up saving all those non-urgent, got-a-minute issues for a dedicated weekly meeting. And that instantly clears hours of just, fragmented distractions from your daily schedule.
Well, and reclaiming that time also requires adopting some rigorous personal rules, too.
Ah.
The most vital one being the touch it once rule.
Oh, this is a big one.
It is. If you open a physical letter or an email, you make a decision and you deal with it right then. You file it, you delegate it, or you delete it.
But you don't just leave it sitting there.
No, you don't read it, vaguely think about it, leave it in your inbox, and come back to it 3 more times. The author notes that revisiting documents without taking action wastes an estimated 6 weeks of productivity per year for the average knowledge worker.
Wait, hold on, though. In a fast-paced business, ignoring computer alerts or insisting on only touching things once, that sounds like a recipe for a missed emergency.
I hear that a lot.
Right. Like if a major client emails with a massive crisis, how is it practical to just ignore the notification because it's not your scheduled email time?
What's fascinating here is that concentration is literally like a muscle. Neuroscience tells us that constant interruptions actively weaken your brain's ability to focus.
So the ping itself is damaging.
Exactly. If your computer dings and you immediately drop a complex strategic task to go read an email, you are physically training your brain to be distractible.
Wow.
Yeah. So the strategy Holmes outlines isn't to ignore genuine emergencies. It's to schedule specific reactive buffers into your day.
Okay, so you still check it, just on your terms.
Right. You might check email at 9 a.m., noon, and 4 p.m. By batching those reactive tasks, you remain primarily proactive rather than living as a hostage to your inbox notifications.
And that structural discipline applies directly to the rest of the time management foundation he lays out. Like, for instance, he insists you make a list of only your top 6 tasks for the day.
Only 6.
Just 6, not a sprawling 25-item wish list. Because when you have 25 items, human psychology kicks in.
Oh, you go for the easy stuff.
Exactly. You tackle the 15 easiest, least impactful tasks just to feel a false sense of momentum, and you leave the hardest, most vital tasks untouched.
Yeah, the classic procrastination trap.
Right. By limiting it to 6 and putting the absolute hardest task first when your energy is highest, you force yourself to confront actual priorities.
And that ruthlessness has to extend to how you handle information, too. Holmes advises throwing away 80% of your filed information.
80%, that's huge.
It is. But managers hold on to thousands of documents just in case. But keeping files out of a vague anxiety of missing out, that's a symptom of fear, not organization.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right. Outside of strict legal or tax necessities, the vast majority of filed paperwork is dead weight that you will literally never look at again.
Now, here's the trap, though. Let's say you follow all of this and you've successfully wrestled back, say, 10 hours of your week.
A great feeling.
Yeah, but if you hand that time back to a team that is still operating on inefficient guesswork, you've gained absolutely nothing.
Nothing at all.
You have to reprogram the team, which means rigorous training.
Right. And we all know the old Stephen Covey adage about the 2 woodcutters.
Sure.
One chops all day and burns out. The other takes a break every hour to sharpen his saw and ends up chopping 3 times as much wood. This is a familiar concept, yeah. But Holmes takes this a step further. He argues that in business, if you don't institutionalize the sharpening through mandatory formal classroom training, the saw never gets sharpened at all.
Exactly, because the default alternative is the tribal method of training.
Oh, the tribal method is the worst.
It is. That's where a new hire just shadows an older employee. It's basically a corporate game of telephone where the new person learns by just absorbing a peer's bad habits and shortcuts.
Yeah, you just pass down the dysfunction.
Right. Holmes demands formalized training to combat the learning curve drop-off.
Oh.
I mean, if you just do a one-off seminar, people forget almost everything within a week.
Oh, totally.
You need relentless repetition to make a skill actually permanent.
And the necessity of that repetition is deeply psychological and physical. You know the story from when Holmes was a teenager.
The martial arts one, yes.
Yeah. So he was studying martial arts, and he hung a softball from a cowhide rope in his bedroom.
Which sounds intense?
Very. He would punch it, it would swing back and smash him in the head.
Ouch.
Right. And for weeks, he just got battered by this softball. But he did it every single day. After 6 months of repetition, his reflexes were so hyper-tuned that the ball never touched him again.
Wow.
He'd completely bypassed his conscious thought and just pre-programmed his muscle memory.
And he actually credits that exact pre-programming with saving his life later on.
Yes, the car crash.
Yeah, he was in a horrific accident where his car flew 265 feet off a cliff at 80 miles per hour.
Unbelievable.
Ordinarily, a person would tense up in absolute terror and break every bone in their body upon impact. But because of his relentless martial arts training, his body's automatic response to extreme physical crisis was to just relax.
Which is so counterintuitive.
It is. But he effectively bounced around inside the rolling car and survived. And he takes that visceral physical reality and applies it directly to how an organization reacts to a corporate crisis.
Well, yeah, because in business, a crisis scan kicks in, just like it does in physical danger. When a customer is screaming on the phone and adrenaline hits the salesperson's bloodstream, their brain immediately searches for a known pattern.
Right. They need a script.
Exactly. If you haven't pre-programmed your staff with rigorous weekly role-playing, they have no pattern to fall back on. So they will just guess.
And guessing goes badly.
Very badly. They will get defensive or freeze or say the wrong thing. And in business, guessing costs money.
Yeah.
You want them to have that conversational muscle memory so they respond flawlessly under intense pressure.
But getting people to that level of flawless execution requires incredible material to train on. I mean, you can't expect a CEO to sit in an office and magically invent every single solution from scratch.
Wow, that's impossible.
You have to extract the answers from the people actually doing the work.
Exactly. You institute weekly workshop-style meetings where the staff themselves generate the solutions to the company's daily bottlenecks.
Which makes them invested.
Totally. This is the engine of change governed by what Holmes calls the 3 Ps: planning, procedures, and policies.
Okay, lay those out for us.
So you plan a solution in the workshop, you test it in the field as a procedure, and once it's perfected, it becomes carved in stone company policy.
But the very first step in implementing any new policy is honestly the most intense part. The rule is, get everyone to feel the pain.
Yeah, that one catches people off guard.
I mean, getting people to hyper-focus on their failures sounds like a great way to demoralize your entire team. How does dragging everyone into their pain actually help anything?
Well, it's not about emotional abuse, you
No.
know. It's about providing stark, undeniable clarity. It's defining the pain of not fixing the problem.
Okay, I see the distinction.
Let's look at the carpet cleaning case study from the book. The company, Rug Renovating, they were losing massive amounts of potential revenue because the staff simply wouldn't offer upsells to customers.
They were just doing the bare minimum.
Right, and a traditional manager might just yell at them to sell more. Instead, in the workshop, they showed the salespeople a matrix of the thousands of dollars in commission they had personally lost out on over the last year.
Oh, wow. By not offering those services.
Exactly. Suddenly, the staff wasn't demoralized. They had a desperate, self-motivated hunger to figure out a new learning curve. They wanted that money.
Think about the biggest bottleneck in your own workflow right now. You probably know what it is, but have you actually sat your team down to map out the exact cost of the pain it's causing?
Most people haven't.
No. And in that carpet cleaning company, the bottleneck was actually emotional. A salesperson was talking to a 78-year-old woman who used a walker. Her carpet pad was 15 years old, completely flat, and basically ruined. But the salesperson didn't offer her a new one because his internal monologue said, "I don't want to be a sleazy, pushy salesman to this nice older lady."
He was trying to be polite.
Exactly. But he completely ignored the reality that she genuinely needed a new pad for her own safety and cleanliness.
So the workshop generated a mechanical procedure to bypass that emotional hurdle entirely. They redesigned the order form to include all 6 of their services directly on the page.
Oh, that's brilliant.
Right. The salespeople no longer had to pitch anything. They just went down the checklist and explained each item as a matter of standard service. It completely removed the anxiety of selling, and their revenue just skyrocketed.
But if we connect this to the bigger picture, even if your staff executes those perfectly designed procedures without a hitch, you are still going to fail if your overarching strategy is pointing them at the wrong target.
Aiming the machine is everything.
Exactly. A machine has to be aimed correctly.
And this is the divide between tactical and strategic thinking. Holmes points out that 90% of executives are purely tactical. They only care about making the sale today.
Right now.
Yeah, only 1% are operating strategically. And to understand why tactical thinking fails, you really have to look at the buyer pyramid.
Right, because at any given time in any market, only about 3% of people are actively buying right now.
That's 3%.
Yeah, and another 7% are open to the idea, but the remaining 90% are broken down into 3 big categories. 30% are not thinking about it, 30% think they aren't interested, and 30% are definitely not interested.
And tactical executives only ever target that tiny top 3%.
Exactly. This brings us back to the stadium we talked about at the very beginning, the stadium pitch.
Oh, yeah. This is key.
Imagine you are standing on a stage in front of a stadium filled with your ideal demographic. If your presentation is just vomiting product data, like saying, "Our office equipment is the most reliable, buy from us," what happens?
90% of the stadium is going to immediately get up and walk out because they aren't in that 3% ready to buy.
Exactly. But here's where it gets really interesting. What if your pitch is instead 5 ways you're bleeding money in daily operations?
Nobody leaves the stadium?
Nobody leaves. Everyone wants to know how to stop losing money. This is the profound shift from product data to market data. It's called education-based marketing.
Yeah, when you use market data, you stop acting like a vendor pushing a product, and you start acting like an expert teaching a masterclass.
Which completely changes the dynamic.
It does, because selling inherently breaks rapport because people have their guard up. But educating builds immense rapport.
The examples of this are just brilliant. Like, there was a local newspaper company struggling to sell ad space. Whenever they pitched buy an ad, businesses ignored them.
Because it's just product data.
Right. So they completely changed their strategy. They hosted free lunch and learn seminars for local business owners titled "The 5 Reasons All Retailers Fail."
Catchy title.
Very, and they packed the room. They provided incredible, objective education on business survival, and at the very end, they organically demonstrated how consistent advertising was a primary defense against failure.
It's so smart.
Or take a simple shoe store. Instead of a clerk saying, "This leather is high quality," They trained their staff to educate buyers.
Right, the nerve endings example.
Yes. They taught them that the feet have 214,000 nerve endings connected to vital bodily organs, and that feet sweat a cup of moisture every single day.
Wow. Gross, but compelling.
Very. Suddenly, buying a high-quality, breathable shoe isn't just a luxury purchase, it's a vital health necessity.
This core story approach completely resets the market's buying criteria. You provide the objective education, and miraculously, the criteria you establish as necessary for success just happens to perfectly match the exact product or service you are selling.
It's almost like magic.
It is. You win the game before your competitor even realizes the rules have changed.
But to pull off education-based marketing at the highest level, you can't just hire warm bodies. It's like casting a heist movie. You don't just need people. You need highly specific psychological profiles to execute high-stress tasks.
You need superstars.
You need superstars.
And identifying a true sales superstar requires understanding personality frameworks. Holmes relies heavily on the DISC profile, which categorizes behavior into 4 traits: dominance, influence, steadiness, and conscientiousness.
Right.
For a sales superstar, you are hunting for an incredibly specific, somewhat rare combination. You want high dominance combined with high influence.
Let's break that down. High dominance means they have a massive ego, an intense need to control situations, and they absolutely do not crumble when they hear the word no.
Right, they thrive on it.
And high influence means they are deeply empathetic, highly persuasive, and have an innate psychological need to bond with other people.
That's a tough combo to find.
It is. To find this specific breed, you can't just ask for standard resumes. You have to write an ad that actively challenges them. Something like, earn $50 if you're average, $300K if you're great. Don't even call unless you're a relentless overachiever and can prove it.
And when they finally do call, you employ the pre-screen rejection.
Oh, this is brutal.
It is. Within the first 60 seconds on the phone, you intentionally shut them down.
Yeah.
You say, I'm looking at your experience, and honestly, I'm not hearing superstar. I don't think you have what it takes.
Which is just wild. And
Yeah.
if they survive that and actually get an interview, you use a structure called relax, probe, and attack.
Right?
You relax them to get them comfortable. You probe deeply into their background, looking for specific indicators, like blindly encouraging parents, because that often builds a foundation of unshakable self-worth.
Yep.
And then at the very end of the interview, you attack. You look them dead in the eye and say, you seem like a nice person, but I just don't think you have the stuff to survive in this job.
The ultimate test.
Yeah. Hold on, though. You invite someone to an interview just to look them in the eye and tell them they aren't good enough. Doesn't that cross the line into outright arrogance?
Well, this raises an important question about the brutal reality of sales.
Yeah.
You aren't being arrogant. You are simulating the intense rejection they will face every single day in the field.
Oh, okay.
A true superstar's massive ego acts as armor. If you attack them, they won't crumble, apologize, and leave.
Yeah.
They will get offended, push back, and aggressively try to close you on why you're wrong,
Yeah.
and they are the absolute best person for the job.
Wow.
Yeah. Because if they fold in the safety of an interview, they will fold when a prospect hangs up on them.
Okay, that makes sense. So once you have these relentless, armor-plated superstars on your team, you don't waste their time on small accounts. You deploy the Dream 100 strategy.
This is where the real money is.
Exactly. You relentlessly target the biggest, most lucrative buyers in your market. Holmes gives the example of a company selling research aids. Instead of pitching low-level librarians at thousands of small law firms, they identified the top 50 law firms in the country.
The heavy hitters.
Yeah. They bypassed the librarians entirely and targeted the managing partners using an education-based stadium pitch about law firms losing millions because they missed crucial precedents.
And the math behind the Dream 100 is undeniable.
Yeah.
Relentlessly marketing to 100 massive best buyers
Fair.
who buy constantly and in huge volume, that is ultimately cheaper and infinitely more profitable than sending generic direct mail to 20,000 small buyers who might never convert.
Right.
You focus all your superstar talent on the absolute highest yield targets.
We have covered a tremendous amount of ground today, but if you look closely, there is a clear, undeniable through line here.
There really is.
We started with taking ruthless control of your time by throwing away useless information and limiting your focus to 6 tasks.
Yep, the foundation.
Then we explored the necessity of pre-programming your team's muscle memory through mandatory training and weekly workshops. We transitioned from tactical product pitching to strategic education-based marketing.
A huge shift.
Massive. And finally, we discussed casting the exact right psychological profiles, those armor-plated egos, to hunt your dream 100 clients. It all traces back to that one core philosophy: pig-headed discipline.
Yeah, and we've focused heavily on corporate application today, building a machine out of staff and strategies. But consider that principle of pig-headed discipline on a purely personal level.
Oh, I like where this is going.
If you dedicated just one strictly guarded hour a week to systematically workshop and improve one specific area of your own life, like your financial literacy, your physical health, or even the procedures within your own relationships, what kind of ultimate unstoppable machine could you build out of your own potential?
So what does this all mean for you? It means whether you are trying to scale a Fortune 500 company or just trying to optimize your own daily routine, you don't have to live in chaos.
You really don't.
You don't have to just pull over on the side of the road and randomly hit the engine with a wrench, hoping something works. With a little discipline and a willingness to sharpen the saw, you can tune the parts, tighten the bolts, and finally hear that engine purr.